Welcome into Philadelphia Eagles now, and a happy Sunday to everybody. Hope all of you have had a fantastic weekend, and if you're watching this on Monday to begin your week, I hope your weeks are off to a great start. Never too late to catch some Eagles coverage right here on Eagles Now, and here's what we have coming up on today's slate. Is Howie Roseman going to make another move to improve this Eagles roster? If the Eagles were to field calls for Tanner McKee, for a team that is looking for a quarterback, what would his trade price be? I have some thoughts on that. And Jaylen Carter is officially back. He absolutely dominated at Eagles training camp on Saturday, and that is a great sign for this Eagles defense going into 2025 after he missed a few practices to begin training camp with that shoulder injury. Before we dive into all of those topics and those storylines, myself and Chip were live for the Eagles preseason opener against the Cincinnati Bengals, thanks to the 100,000 plus people who tuned into the show throughout the night. The fact that we did those numbers for a preseason affair is crazy. But during that watch party, we surpassed 124,000 subscribers, another big milestone here on the show. But then once we checked back in to see what our sub count was looking like, we found out that YouTube did a subscriber purge. Now we're below 124,000. But as you can see here to my right, 78 people away from getting to that number for a second time. So lock us in, hit that sub button for the best Eagles coverage coming your way every single day year round. My biggest concern with the Eagles after their preseason opener against the Bengals, we all saw why the Eagles traded for cornerback Jakorian Bennett. Because Howie Roseman, Vic Fangio, Nick Sirianni, this Eagles organization is not 100% confident in Keely Ringo and Adoree Jackson. They made that trade before any of us saw them in game action. And then the game played out, and we saw probably what they've been seeing, or at least what their concerns were, which is why they made that Jakorian Bennett trade, that Ringo and Adoree Jackson might not cut it for this team. Ringo going up against Ja'Marr Chase, burnt toast. Adoree Jackson on the other side, playing outside corner, not much better. And I know a lot of people will say, Chase, come on, man. Give Keely Ringo a break. He's still a young player, 4.3 speed, 6 feet, over 200 pounds. He can get better. He can improve. And while he might, and yes, while he did go up against Ja'Marr Chase, if he is going to be the Eagles starting corner, opposite of Quinyon Mitchell, he is going to have a lot of difficult tests like he faced on Thursday night against Ja'Marr Chase, against the likes of T. Higgins. Look at this Eagles schedule and think about the wide receivers who he will be crossing for this Eagles defense this season if he wins that starting job. The same can be said for Adoree Jackson. Week 1 off the rip, you play the Dallas Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens. Week 2 against the Chiefs, you're going up against Patrick Mahomes. Week 3 against the Rams, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. Week 4 on the road against the Bucs, a team that's been the Eagles' nemesis. Mike Evans, Jackson Smith-Njigba is a player who has been lighting up camp, and we'll see if Chris Godwin is back at that point. Week 5 against the Broncos, Bo Nix, Sean Payton, Courtland Sutton. Week 6 against the Giants, Malik Neighbors is a top 10 wide receiver in the game already going into year 2. Week 7 against the Vikings, the Jordan Addison suspension will be over. Justin Jefferson is also amidst that receiving core. Week 8 against the Giants, Neighbors again. Week 9 bye. Week 10 against the Packers, they drafted Matthew Golden, and they have a collection of depth pieces at that wide receiver spot. Week 11 against the Lions, you could go up against Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Tim Patrick is back. Week 12, it's the Cowboys again. Week 13, Ben Johnson. We'll see if Caleb Williams works out, although the body language and the sulking really concerns me. But they do have a lot of weapons on the offensive side of the ball in general. Week 14, against the Chargers. What if Keely Ringo, with that lack of lateral speed, has to line up against Ladd McConkey, who thrives with lateral speed and short area quickness? Against the Raiders, not a great receiving core, but Jacoby Myers, pretty damn good. Against the Commanders, Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel. Buffalo Bills, you're going up against Josh Allen. Week 18, it's the Commanders again. So yes, the test for Kelee going up against Ja'Marr Chase was hard. Ja'Marr Chase, you can make the argument, is the best wide receiver in football, right? But all throughout this season, the Eagles will be facing great quarterbacks, great offensive play callers, great play designers, and great wide receivers. And that is a preview of what Ringo will have to go up against. Now, Vic Fangio spoke on this Saturday, August 9th, and he said that Kelee has to make that play when he failed to throttle down and Ja'Marr Chase was kind of able to shake him out of his shoes and then take it to the house. The other toe drag swag catch along the sideline, that is just an innate feel between Burrow and Chase to complete that pass downfield, and it's not like the coverage was awful. But you look at these numbers, and this is a concern for this Eagles team because coming out of that preseason game, you're like, wow, Philadelphia is deep everywhere. They have a lot of talent. A lot of the young players they'll be relying on for this year looked really good, but at corner and safety, I think that Howie Roseman could make moves or a move at one of those two positions. Kelee gave up 4 catches on 4 targets for 79 yards, 1 touchdown, and a passer rating of 158.3, 16 coverage snaps. Adoree Jackson gave up 4 catches on 5 targets for 45 yards, a passer rating of 104.2 in 16 coverage snaps. That's not going to cut it, and those players did not pass the eye test. Can they get better? No doubt. And we'll be watching closely the next 2 preseason games and throughout the rest of training camp. Now, Jakorian Bennett on Saturday did practice with the twos. Do the Eagles have to make an additional move, or was that their move at corner? You got to give props to Howie Roseman because he always has great foresight. Like any good business does, he always plans ahead. And him and Vic Fangio were probably having conversations. Don't quite trust Kelee and Adoree, so let's make a move and let's get Bennett in here so that he can have a month to get prepared for week 1. I talked about this right when that trade was made, that the Eagles making this move now, that's of note because they want to give Bennett a long look to see if he can win that corner job opposite of Quinyon Mitchell. I did see some people in the comment section. Chase, isn't Cooper DeJean the other cornerback? He's playing in the slot. You need 3 corners, and he's been playing a lot of safety. I'm not sure he's an outside guy, nor do I want to use him on the outside because when he is in the slot, you can use him as a chess piece in that hybrid role where he can blitz, he can play hybrid linebacker, he can play safety, and in that slot spot, we saw it in the Super Bowl, he can go up against the likes of a Travis Kelce, go up against tight ends. He can defend and guard running backs in addition to wide receivers. And so Bennett becomes a very fascinating player. And Fangio even said, yeah, he has a chance to be a starter. We'll certainly see. And he has been riddled by injuries his first 2 years in the NFL. Hamstring and then back-to-back years with a shoulder problem. That is a concern moving forward, undoubtedly. But in 450-plus snaps last year, look at where Bennett ranked among all corners. And this is a player who was a 4th-round pick out of Maryland by Las Vegas, ran 4.3 flat in the pre-draft process, and earned a starting role and then flourished in that starting role as a rookie. But last year, sophomore campaign for him, 18 catches allowed. That ranked 3rd among all corners. 37 targets, tied for 10th. 176 yards allowed, that was 2nd. No touchdowns given up in coverage, of course, tied for 1st. 9 PBUs, tied for 4th. A quarterback rating when targeted, 62.4. That was 6th. When he went up against Ja'Marr Chase, the same player who Keely Ringo got cooked by, 3 catches, 16 yards, no tutties, and a pass breakup. And so far in his career, 11 starts, 24 games, 11 PBUs. Not too shabby at all. So with that, I pop up today's poll question. Whether you look at safety, you look at corner, do the Eagles need to make a trade? Yes or no? Simple question, simple answer. I want to hear from you to gauge where this fan base is at down in the comment section right now. More to get to here on the show, but first, it is very rare that you will see a fresh jersey like this, Kelly Green Saquon Barkley Nike jersey, on sale for 20% off. We have sold a bunch of these. I asked Jack Adoree, who's our ad ops guy, Jack, how these sales doing? And he said they're crushing it. One of the top sellers here at Chat Sports. Hop on board, get that deal. But you can only get that deal, 20% off, if you use our link. It's the exclusive one right below me, chatsports.com/Saquon Kelly. I'm going to put that link down below in the show notes and attached to the pinned comment of today's Philadelphia Eagles. Now, let's go. So is the price tag for Tanner McKee a first-round pick? Going into the preseason game on Thursday, I had said Tanner McKee, best backup quarterback in the NFL. I think that he could start for a handful of teams. And then he goes out there against the Bengals once. He carves them up, and he looked tremendous yet again. And he was the talk of that game. And throughout the preseason, he has been one of the marquee players as far as talking points across the entire National Football League. And because he's played so well in regular season action and in preseason for the third straight year, and he plays the quarterback position, the ultimate value among all positions in all of sports, frankly, is he worth a first-round pick? I actually think his price tag has elevated from about a 2 to, I think, a team across the NFL in desperate need for a starting quarterback, looking at the potential and the ability that Tanner McKee has, would surrender and squander a first-round selection for the Eagles QB2. What a luxury to have a player like this behind Jalen Hurts, because if Hurts were to go down, you have a lot of confidence that McKee could play well, and this Eagles team could still be a playoff and Super Bowl contender. Against Cincinnati, so efficient, so accurate, 6'6", surveys the field so well, as he's done since he was drafted in the 6th round out of Stanford. He throws with such great timing, touch, accuracy, and anticipation. We have seen a growth with his pocket feel and pocket mobility. I think he throws very well on the run. What I also like about McKee, and sometimes you can't coach this, he always gives his receivers a chance. Some quarterbacks aren't confident in pulling the trigger because their receiver isn't open. But when McKee was staring down Johnny Wilson, who's 6'6", he threw 3 balls up to him. All 3 were 50-50s. Johnny Wilson, head toppers. Very impressive plays by him, but it was made possible because of the trust that McKee had in him and the vision that he had from the pocket. 20-25 against Cincinnati, 253 total yards, 3 total touchdowns, and a passer rating of 135.3. And I've seen some people say, mostly Cowboys fans probably, Chase, relax, it's the preseason. Tanner McKee isn't all that good. How about how he fared in relief duty against the Cowboys starters last year when he came in for Kenny Pickett? He was awesome. How about how Tanner McKee played? Go back and look at the tape. Check out the highlights against the Giants ones in the regular season finale when the Eagles rested everybody and McKee was running with his backups against the Giants starters. He was incredible, and he put up one of the best quarterback performances in all of Week 18. He hasn't just done it in the preseason. There's a long sample size there. He's also done it in the regular season. And I threw out this tweet, and we talked about this during the watch party. Like, McKee, I think, could start on a handful of teams. And I had some people respond to me on X saying, yeah, maybe 2 max. He's better than Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. No doubt. He could start for the Indianapolis Colts. He is better than Justin Fields. He could start on the New York Jets. I think he's better than any quarterback on the Cleveland Browns. He could start there. Who would you rather have if you need to win a ball game right now? Or who would you rather have for a whole season? Would you rather have Russell Wilson or Tanner McKee? He could start on the New York Giants. I'm not a big Kyler Murray guy. Always starts fast, then flails at the end of the year. He could start on the Arizona Cardinals. You think Kellen Moore, after coaching Tanner McKee last year, being around him, wouldn't be interested in bringing in McKee with all of the unknowns there? Tyler Shuck, Desmond Ridder, Jake Haener? Yeah, I'm taking Tanner McKee. So at least 6 teams here that I think McKee could start for in 2025 and play well. Another poll question for the homies. Is Tanner McKee worth the first-round pick? I think he is. Type W for worth it. If you disagree with me, that's fine. This is America. Freedom of speech, baby. But I want you to explain your reasoning. Type NY for not yet. Not New York. F them. Jaylen Carter is back. He dominated at Eagles training camp on Saturday. And it's not like Carter hasn't taken training camp practices seriously up until this point. Remember, he missed the first few practices of training camp due to that shoulder injury. But this is a case of when he wants to turn it on, and he does turn it on. Jaylen Carter is one of the best, most dominant, most abusive defensive players in all of football. And we saw that on display on Saturday. He had a strip sack of Jalen Hurts where, with explosion, power, and violence, he was able to get into the backfield. Then, as he did very famously last year, in batting down passes, had a lot of pass breakups. He has an innate feel for that. He batted down a pass at the line of scrimmage and then in one-on-ones. We're talking about the Eagles offensive line, which is still arguably the best in the NFL. I think it is. No argument from me, but others could argue that. He shined in one-on-ones, able to win his one-on-one matchups. And the sky is the limit for JC. We saw it last year when he got so much better from year 1 to year 2 to the point where he was a second-team All-Pro. And here is where he ranked among all defensive tackles last year. Snaps first. It's been very durable. Pressure rate of 10.5%, third. Pass rush win rate, 12.9%, fourth. Sacks, 7. Of note, PFF does not count half sacks, so he was tied for third there. Quarterback hits, 16. That was second. Hurries, 52. Second. Batted passes, just mentioned that, 7. Number 1. Forced fumbles, he always has that peanut punch. 3. That was first. Run stop win rate, 7.2%. That was third. And he had 8 TFLs. That was also first. Also an underrated storyline. If he doesn't dominate the end of that divisional round game against the Rams, Eagles may have gone home, and the Eagles may not have been Super Bowl 59 champions, and that would have been a kick in the balls for everybody out there. And I also loved to see this from Zack Burman when he was at the link for that preseason game on Thursday, and this is something that I noticed as well, how pumped up Jalen Carter was on the sideline when his teammates made plays. We're seeing more leadership from him. And Burman tweeted that out as well. When you watch Jalen Carter on the sideline during practice and a preseason game, it's hard to imagine there was ever a question about his passion for football. Hard to find someone who's more into it when he's not playing than Jalen Carter. And I'm telling you right now, that resonates with teammates and in the locker room. Don't forget to give me a follow on X and Instagram at Chase_Senior. I'm always talking Eagles here on YouTube on Eagles Now, but the coverage doesn't stop. We're doing it over there as well.